Today's case takes place in Clear Lake, outside Houston, Texas. Well, at Clear Lake High School. Clear Lake High School is home to bright 2,000 students, but it's also your average teenage drama center. Clear Lake has a tough social hierarchy where some kids are in the crowd and others are seen as outsiders. In 2003, Rachael, Koloroutis and Tiffany Rowell were best friends, and in many ways they were the classic popular, good-looking girls. But unlike the many popular girls in the movies, they were not arrogant or exclusive. In fact, they were two of the kindest people around. Tiffany was an actress with a dream to become a social worker. Rachael was passionate about creative arts and wanted to join the Air Force. She was a champion of the underdog and wanted to make a big change in the world, just like her bestie. One such change began when a shy student from New York City joined Clear Lake High School, and Rachael and Tiffany took her under their wing. It was Christine Paolilla. Christine had a tough life. She was born on Long Island in 1986 to Lori and Charles Paolilla. In 1988, Charles was on a construction site when a bag of bricks fell onto his head, killing him on the spot. In a very strange turn of events, Charles had hefty life insurance, but his 2-year-old daughter was listed as his sole beneficiary. She couldn't receive the insurance until she was 18, but neither could her mother. Overwhelmed, Lori became a heroin addict. She lost custody of her children, and they moved from relative to relative. Then when Christine was only 5, she woke up and realized that her hair was falling out in huge chunks. By the time she was in primary school, Christine had lost all of her hair, including her eyebrows and eyelashes. She was diagnosed with alopecia at such a young age. It was devastating.
Alopecia. She would wake up in the morning and there would just be clumps of hair all over her pillow. Patches here, patches there. She became extremely self-conscious about it. She even lost.
Life at school was downright cruel for Christine. She became a complete outcast. So when she moved to Clear Lake High School, she didn't have her hopes up. But for the first time in her life, Christine would make friends. By now, Christine was living with Lori again. She had kicked off her addiction and remarried. So when they moved to Clear Lake, they were looking for a fresh start. They found all that and more. Now, Christine had a group of kind, popular friends. But sadly, this was the beginning of the end for Christine. Rachael and Tiffany saw how much Christine looked up to them, so they decided to give Christine a total makeover. They found her a cooler wig and took her to get contact lenses. They gave her makeup tips, and within a few months, Christine was just as sought after. Christine had gone from a shy, social outcast to a reputable high school beauty queen. But things would take a quick downfall from here on out. After Rachael and Tiffany graduated, they were not hanging out with Christine on a daily basis anymore. Christine was 1 year younger and still in school and spending more time with her boyfriend. Back in 2002, Christine befriended another group of people, the bad boys, who smoked reefer behind the school. This is how Christine met Chris Snider. He was your average maverick, eyebrow piercing, and oversized clothing included. He was only 16, but to 14-year-old Christine, he seemed like the father she never had. But Chris wasn't exactly protective. Just a few months into their relationship, he became controlling and abusive. He didn't allow Christine to see her friends and family. This way, he would be her only relationship.
A few years ago, who was Chris Snider to you?
Very controlling, very scary person. Whenever whenever his temper was pushed, or whenever he would felt he had to prove something, he would act very bully-like, very like hard-ass kind of. And there's been times where he'd get almost satanic, talking about.
Was it a love-hate relationship? Did you have strong feelings for him?
At first, it was a really good relationship. Then he started. I guess once he got used to the relationship, when more like
newness wore off.
Yeah, he got very take charge, very demanding.
Okay.
And if he didn't get what he wanted, he would do whatever it took to, get me to, do something for him, or, or say something for him, or just pretty much, he really could, he knew that what my weak spots were, and when I would be in a weak state of mind.
At one point, Chris was arrested for armed robbery and sent to prison for a few months. Kristen's family tried to convince her to dump him, but when he was released, they were back together. By now, he was simply a bully to her. He had even pulled her wig off in front of her friends. Her worst nightmare. Tiffany and Rachael also told Kristen that she should dump Chris, but she didn't listen. And that was her first big mistake. After graduating, Rachael and Tiffany moved in together into a small home in Clear Lake and took summer jobs at the same bar. Tiffany was dating Marcus Priscilla, and sometimes his cousin, Adelbert Sanchez, would tag along. The four would chat, play games, and throw parties at the house. Christine started to feel left out from her girls' group. Rachael and Tiffany refused to invite her if she came with Chris. In the late afternoon of July 18th, 2003, two neighbors knocked on Rachael and Tiffany's door for a quick surprise visit. No one answered, so they tried the door and they discovered a blood-chilling scene. Rachael, Tiffany, Marcus, and Adelbert had been butchered. It was much too late to save them. Adelbert was the oldest of the group, aged 21. The other three were only 18. All of them had been shot multiple times, but Rachael had suffered the most horrific death. She had been hit with a blunt object over her head until her head was practically slashed in. The crime scene was as gruesome as it was eerie. There was no sign of a break-in, and the TV was still playing cartoons. In a truly sad twist, Rachel's hand was still on her phone. She dialed 911, one digit away from making the call. There were dozens of shell casings on the floor from two different guns, but there were no weapons found at the scene. The killer had come equipped, and this was a premeditated attack. The investigators now knew they were looking at a minimum of 2 killers, but they had no idea where to start. The case immediately made headlines all over the country, and when the media showed a picture of the house where it all happened, Rachel's dad, George, recognized the address and headed there as fast as he could. He made a heartbreaking attempt to enter the house, but the police didn't let him. Imagine learning that your daughter is dead, but not being able to come in and say goodbye. As the police interviewed the group of friends, they learned that Rachael and Tiffany would host parties almost daily. But on July 18th, they were by themselves at home, watching TV. However, one neighbor reported a crucial detail. They had seen a young man and a woman walking down the street that day. They both were black, and the woman was described as pretty, with big eyes and wearing a black bandana. This is her portrait drawn by forensic artist Lois Gibson. The sketches were released all over the country, hoping for a helpful call. But weeks turned to months and no one came through. Then the police started looking at Marcus. He used to be a dealer, so they were wondering if the murderers had been a drug deal gone wrong. But several friends and relatives of Marcus said that he was really trying to change his ways, and that he didn't have any enemies at the time. There was another clue that dismissed this theory. If this was a deal gone wrong, then drugs or money would have disappeared from the house that day. But everything was left intact. As the police continued debating theories, they decided to look at the 4 bodies. Of the 4, Rachael had been attacked the most. Her head had been slashed in, and she had been shot in the crotch. A forensic psychiatrist suggested this may be a sign of sexual envy. It seemed like the police were close, but they had no idea who would want Rachael dead so badly. 1 year later, the case made headlines again, only because there were 0 leads. Christine seemed affected too. Christine's parents supported her through this grieving period, and even Clear Lake students offered their sympathy for losing her 2 best friends in such a horrific manner. No one saw her as a suspect.
She was very upset. She cried most of the night.
Did she stay home?
She slept in our bed for 3 nights. She was afraid.
In 2004, she was arrested for shoplifting. That's when she entered a rehab program and broke up with Chris. During rehab, Kristen met Justin, a fellow former heroin addict. Their relationship was just as intense as her first relationship. Within a year, they got married. And remember how Christine had a huge insurance waiting for her when she turned 18? Christine spent a staggering $360,000 on a brand new apartment and the rest on heroin. It was July 8, 2006. Almost 3 years had passed since the horrific murders. Houston police had declared it a cold case, and they did not expect to receive a phone call about it. A man who had been at the same rehab program as Christine told the police that he had heard her brag about committing the 2003 murders. As far as the police knew, Christine, Rachael, and Tiffany were BFFs. They had even found a photo of Christine in Rachael's purse. But when they looked at the profile sketch again, they realized it did resemble Christine. And when they found out that she had alopecia and was usually wearing wigs, the bandana made only more sense. So the police paid Christine and Justin a visit. Their apartment was filled with clutter and syringes. Well, it was filled with everything but Christine and Justin. Christine had seen her face on TV that summer and panicked. Then the couple left in a hurry to hide in a drugs motel, just like in the worst Breaking Bad scenes. On July 19, 2006, Christine was arrested at the motel and Justin, well, he was the one who made the call to the police. You see, when Christine saw her face on TV, she confessed everything to Justin. Inside the interrogation room, she could barely sit up straight. At the time, she told the cops that she was used to shooting up every 10 to 15 minutes. She told the detectives she and her ex-boyfriend, Chris, had gone to the house to take their drugs and money. But things took a sudden turn, and Chris started shooting people. Then she got sick, and the police transported her to a hospital.
And what was he telling you? 1, 2, 3?
He was holding on to it too.
Okay, like on top of your hand or something?
Yes, like,
like
I couldn't even tell you how it was, like, but that one that like I was scared and I was like crimping, and then I had made the gun go off, not purposely though, but like it went to like the back of the room because I was just like screaming, just like shaking.
So somehow you pulled the trigger?
Yes.
Okay. It was violent when it goes off?
Mm-hmm.
How many times do you think it went off in your hand?
1,000,000 times.
It went off a bunch in your hand?
It felt like 1,000,000 times. Like even like the first time, it felt like 1,000,000 times.
So you were pulling the trigger somehow?
No. Like it's like he has his hand, and my hand was like, I couldn't even tell you how. Like it was.
Okay.
But it was his force that was making
it go off.
Yes.
Okay. Were you hitting anyone?
I don't.
When they interrogated her later that day, her story changed. Christine claimed that Chris forced her to shoot her friends, as he was controlling, as always. How could a gun go off in your hand 1,000,000 times? And if that somehow happened, how did she hit all her victims so well? They all had been shot in the head and chest. Everyone knows those are the lethal spots. And when Justin was questioned, he remembered Christine telling a different story. Christine was jealous of Rachael and Tiffany. She and Chris knew that they were going to attack them. They didn't know 2 boys would also be there, but they didn't care. They were set to kill. In one gruesome final clue, Justin said Christine saw Rachael barely alive after the shooting, so she moved closer to her and made sure that she was dead. The police found Chris Snider in a forest. He had taken his own life after a family member told him that the police were looking for him. In 2008, Christine went on trial. Justin's confession, the lack of drugs or money taken from the house, and her long-standing jealousy of Rachael and Tiffany painted a clear picture. She was convicted on all 4 counts of murder and sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 40 years before parole. If Christine is on her best behavior, she will be out in 2046 at the age of 60. But can she ever atone for taking 4 innocent lives and killing the friends that once helped her blossom? And will the victim's family ever forgive her? Thanks for watching, you guys. Don't forget to leave a comment and like and subscribe.